Nikki, tell us about the recommended treatment options for you, and what were there any options, or how was the cancer treated?
So, in my particular case, the cancer was still in what they call in situ. So, I did have a lymph node biopsy, and thankfully, it had not spread, but it was a big lump, and the cells were highly active and a high rate of necrosis. So, that shows that the cells are dying and then new ones are forming. So, from that point of view, it was quite a high grade cancer. Um, which meant it was likely to grow and spread fairly quickly. Because of my family history and having lost my grandmother to breast cancer, and then having had a history of cysts removed already, the surgeon suggested that bilateral mastectomy was the best way to go. She did say that the other option that was available to me was to have a lumpectomy and radiation, but that was not a particularly good option in the long term. So, yeah, basically, in a very short space of time, it was literally days, that was the option that was put on the table and the surgery was booked.
Right. And when did the reconstructive surgery take place?
So that actually happened simultaneously. Both surgeons are in theatre at the same time with a pathologist. So the oncology surgeon is working to remove all the cancerous tissue or all the breast tissue. And then there's the pathologist to make sure that the margins are all clear. And then the reconstructive surgeon, in my particular case, was in surgery at the same time and did the reconstruction there. Some women opt to have it at a later date. But because I didn't need to go through chemo or radiation, I was advised that the best option was to have it done simultaneously.
I would imagine it was a very difficult time for you and for your family. I'm sure they were hugely supportive in trying to keep your spirits up. How did you keep your spirits up during this time? Because it all happened so quickly.
It did happen very quickly, almost a little bit too quickly. I think my mom, once again, I think my mom struggled the most because she felt very helpless. Um, there were tough days because physically it's incredibly painful. It's a massive surgery. It truly
I
is.
can imagine.
I mean, you're literally stitched from one armpit to the other. The drains are very, very painful. Those stay in anywhere from 4 to 9 days. Mine, of course, were the 8 or 9 day. So that's very painful. And you're just oozing liquid, and it is very painful. But I guess in my head at the time, I thought, well, but that's it. It's over. It's done. That was the worst of it, and now it's over. Little did I know that actually it was the beginning of the nightmare. But that at the time was how I made it through.
How you made it through.
Yeah.
How important would you say is your mental attitude in terms of fighting a disease like this?
I'd say it's everything. It's absolutely everything. There again, I was lucky in that mine was caught so early, but you hear like a Lance Armstrong, for example, tumors all through his lungs and his brain, and his attitude was, I am going to survive, and he did. And then you hear stories of people who get diagnosed and 2 or 3 months later, because they didn't believe they would survive, they didn't. So that most definitely is the most important part. And as an aside, I've met quite a few amazing women through this journey, and everyone's story is different. And I was thinking that maybe I hadn't gone through as much, and that I hadn't earned the title of survivor the way other women had, because I hadn't been through chemo and all those kind of things. And it's so interesting because I think 4 of the women that I spoke to had all been through chemo, yet every single one of them said to me, you're so brave, because I opted for the surgery. It was their worst nightmare. They couldn't imagine their lives without their breasts. So they would have done anything to avoid the surgery. And they all thought I was so incredibly brave. Whereas I was looking at them thinking, oh my goodness, I couldn't imagine what you've just been through, and I would do anything to avoid that. So I think the important thing through this journey is to know everybody's different. We all walking our own path, but whichever end of the spectrum you're on, you're still brave, you're still a warrior, and you've still got a story to tell that can help other people.
Sure, very, you are very brave, Nicki, very, very brave. Interestingly, I believe that after having the reconstructive surgery, a couple of years later, you decided to have the implants removed. Tell us about that. What led to that decision for you?
So the starting point was I was having nerve pain in my left armpit and across my chest, and the left side was where the cancer had been found. So I wanted to get that checked out because there was a little voice in the back of my head saying, maybe it's back or maybe there's something wrong. And I'd also, I can't even remember how I became aware of this, but I was aware of the fact that there were problems with breast implants globally, and I started doing research. And I found out that not only were the implants that I had inside me recalled globally because they were textured and they'd found complications with textured implants, which are the ones most often used in mastectomy patients because the texture allows whatever remaining tissue you have to adhere and for them to bed down. And there was also a type of lymphoma that had been discovered. The other thing in the back of my head was that breast implants are not lifetime appliances. Ideally, every 10 to 12 years, they need to be checked and ideally removed and, if wanted, replaced. And having been through what I'd just been through, I had all these things in my head, and I didn't want to wait 10 or 12 years to find out if I had another kind of cancer, if they were burst or causing problems. They also, the research I was doing was talking about any sort of foreign body that you put inside you. If you have autoimmune illnesses, it seems to spark off reactions. And all those things considered, I went back to the surgeon and said to him, look, I'm just feeling really uncomfortable. I see there are so many women opting to have their implants removed for various reasons, and that's what I want to do.
So interesting and frightening at the same time, Nicki. And I think it illustrates the need for people to actually take control of their own health and to do their own research and their own homework when it comes to their health. So thank you for sharing that with us.